My second day in London started pretty early because I had a 4-hour walking tour starting at 9 o'clock. When I had booked the tour online, it said it was a 4-hour walking tour of Westminster Abbey, Big Ben, and Buckingham Palace. And it was really nice. Like, we actually saw a couple other things. Like, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, this is where it started out, right in front of Big Ben. It did start to rain a little bit here, and I was like, darn it, I did not bring anything. I was just in a tank top, and I was like, probably should have thought this through or checked the weather, but I did not do that. When I first got there though, I was so terrified because there were so many tour guides standing around. I was like, how on earth am I supposed to find mine out of all these people? Because they all just had paper signs, so I was like wandering around, but eventually I spotted the one that was supposed to be mine, and then she moved us all into one area so we could start gathering so we could all be there, and she was checking her list to make sure we had everyone before we headed out, which was nice. Then we headed over to Westminster. We weren't allowed to take any videos inside, but we were allowed to take photos, and I took a whole bunch. Also, I really loved our tour guide. She was hilarious, and like the way she spoke and just told the stories, and it was really well done. It's been a while since I've been on a walking tour, and I forgot how well done it can be with a person showing you around and telling you the stories. Seeing the architecture inside, honestly, just architecture outside, just everything here, I was like realizing how boring some modern stuff looks compared to this. Like, it's so detailed and so beautiful. We got to see the throne that's used for coordination, and she told a story about this rock that hides underneath it, but they only borrow it for coordinations, and also that you used to be able to sit on the throne, but someone tried blowing it up, so now it's behind a glass wall. Got to see so many stained glass windows. I love stained glass windows. I used to make them when I was younger, so I've always had a great love and appreciation for them. One small detail I never would have noticed if I hadn't had a tour guide was that this building was actually built in 2 parts, and you can tell where the building stopped and started because in the wall there's like a line where there's like divots in one side, and the other side there's not divots, and that's where the construction continued and they stopped doing those divots, and now there's just a permanent line that shows you the 2 sides of when this was built. It was really cool. Would never have noticed that if it hadn't been pointed out to me. But everything was just so pretty, and like the colors, and wow, I was just honestly blown away the entire time. And obviously as we're walking around, there's a bunch of like plaques on the ground about who's buried where. So they're buried in the catacombs underneath this, and I took photos of a bunch of the science ones, obviously. What can I say? Engineering student. She also told a story, I don't know if all of them, but she said that like the smaller squares, they would be buried standing up so that they didn't have to like pay as much for like a big plaque for them to be buried laying down. Another fun story we were told is that these carved caskets, the parents would normally have their kids carved into the sides, and if the child is holding a skull in its hand, it means the child died before the parents did. I can't remember any of them now, but she did tell stories too about all these knights, like their names and their symbols are like very much play on words of their last name, which was kind of funny. And then also in this room, there's little seats for the monks, but the seats have weird carvings on them, and they're very interesting for sure. One of them is a guy looking up someone's skirt. One of them is a guy getting hit on the butt. They were very interesting. One of the last few things we looked at before heading out was this wall where they were doing some restoration, and they were like taking down some of the stone that was falling apart, and when they did that they found these old paintings hidden behind it, so now those are on display, which was pretty cool. Eventually we headed it back outside, and when we got out there she told some stories about the red buses and telephone booths and why they're red, because it used to be so foggy you couldn't see anything, but if it was bright red it did stand out. We got to see the outside of Buckingham Palace, and then we walked around a little bit more, and we got to see Lancaster House, which now apparently is like an event space, or a lot of TVs and movies use it to when they want to film like a palace or something, apparently. And Clarence House, which is apparently where the king actually lives right now. Then we stopped at St. James's Palace, and apparently someone's heart is buried here. But yeah, and then we walked a little bit of a street, just kind of telling us stories about gentleman clubs in the area and how those used to work, and then some of the old shoe and hat stores. And then I headed back to Maya's place. And honestly, here's where I went, where are my video clips from the day? Like, why do I have so little? And I realized it's because when I got back to her place, I ended up falling asleep. I guess the jet lag had finally hit me. So yeah, kind of just rested for a bit till she was off work, and then when she was off work, we headed out and kind of just walked around the area, got to cross London Bridge, realized that London Bridge is kind of just a bridge, and that Tower Bridge is what everyone thinks is London Bridge. Yeah, it was fun. We got pizza for dinner, just explored the area, and then got home and got some rest. But just another chill day before I set out on my own for day 3.